2015 marked 15 years of democratic local government in South Africa. The amount of municipal service delivery progress attained during the last 13 years reaffirms the solidity of the path we chose when we affirmed the vision of developmental local government as far back as 1998, when we adopted the White Paper on Local Government. Today, we can unequivocally state that despite the challenges, the structure and system of local government has been set on a firm foundation, and that local government is indeed resilient and strengthening. But as the system grows and matures, so too the challenges grow and transform. More and new challenges have emerged and need to be confronted head-on and immediately. The high level of mobility between rural and urban areas is unprecedented, not only in our country, but the entire sub-Saharan Africa and indeed the world. More than half of the world's population will live in emerging market cities by 2050. Cities in countries such as China, India, Russia, Indonesia, Brazil, Turkey, Mexico and South Africa. Approximately 460 million people in emerging market cities will enter the middle class between 2010 and 2015. South Africa's own middle class population will increase from 17 to 22 million during this time. In 2009, for the first time, Africa's total population passed the 1 billion mark. 40% of that number lived in urban areas. It's predicted that by 2050, more than 60% of Africa's total population will live in urban areas. By 2011, almost 63% of our own South African population were residing in towns and cities, confirming that South Africa, like all countries in sub-Saharan Africa, is becoming an urban country. This is projected to reach 70% by 2030. From 2001 to 2011, the population of the Tsantsabane local municipality of the Northern Cape rose by 30%, while in Limpopo, the population of the Lephalale local municipality increased by 35%, and the population of the Tshwane Metro municipality in Gauteng grew by 36.6%, while the population of the Rustenburg local municipality in the Northwest Province grew by a staggering 42%. This rapid urbanization in primary and secondary cities is expected to continue over the coming decade, and South Africa has come to terms with its urban realities as expressed in the NDP. Unlike the experiences of Europe and other parts of the developed world, Africa's urbanization has primarily been driven by poverty and underdevelopment in the rural parts of most of our countries. In South Africa, the challenges associated with urbanization are further exacerbated by the stubborn nature of the apartheid spatial form, where our cities were designed to cater for only a few people, whilst the majority were confined to dormitory style of life. Although our cities like Johannesburg have changed dramatically over the last decade or two, in response to rapid growth among other changes, they are essentially still divided along racial, cultural and economic boundaries. Many people still have to travel long distances just to get to work or to school, even to a doctor. Inequality reinforces economic marginalization and produces spatial poverty traps. Approximately 1.25 million households in South Africa today live in informal settlements. The numbers grow daily as more and more people move into the cities in search of a better life. The phenomenon of climate change has imposed itself on how we should think and act about our living spaces. We know that climate change affects food production patterns. It impacts negatively on our water supply. It disrupts access to much-needed energy. It compounds the problem of waste management, and it increasingly erodes our already overstretched road network infrastructure. As a result of these challenges, the bulk of our service delivery efforts achieved in the last 20 years will be undermined considerably. The challenges outlined here present an opportunity and indeed are a clarion call to all of us: government, workers, business, civil society, individuals, households and religious groups to confront the modern challenges of local governance by continuously working together to transfigure our spaces. There are various efforts around the country that are effectively transfiguring our spaces. Public-private developments such as Cosmo City and Konubia have engaged head-on with the complex challenges of socio-economic integration in communities. eThekwini is among many cities and towns that are actively engaged with the challenge of informal settlement upgrade efforts. Mandela Bay continues to drive aggressive urban regeneration efforts, like many of our largest cities, in an effort to address inner-city decay and township underdevelopment. We have ambitious and bold city strategies such as the City of Johannesburg's Corridors of Freedom, a transformative urban vision. And our capital city Tshwane has embarked upon high-end smart city plans to transcend the limitations of physical access in a brave, new virtual world of information and communication technologies, where millions of users can be connected for education, economic development, and broader social inclusion. In June 2014, President Jacob Zuma announced the advent of government's Integrated Urban Development Framework. It builds on various chapters in the National Development Plan 2030, particularly extending Chapter 8, which is about transforming human settlements and the national space economy. In Chapter 8, the National Development Plan outlines a set of principles for spatial transformation: the principle of spatial justice, the principle of spatial sustainability, the principle of spatial resilience, the principle of spatial quality, and the principle of spatial efficiency. The IUDF's overall outcome, spatial transformation, marks a new deal for South African cities and towns. By steering growth towards a sustainable growth model of compact, connected and coordinated cities and towns. The IUDF has been approved by Cabinet for implementation, and the 2016 to 2019 implementation plan identifies concrete actions that must be taken for the short-term period. To achieve this transformative vision, 4 overall strategic goals have been introduced. Spatial integration, to forge new spatial forms in settlement, transport, social and economic areas. Inclusion and access, to ensure people have access to social and economic services, opportunities and choices. Growth, to harness urban dynamism for inclusive, sustainable economic growth and development. Governance, to enhance the capacity of the state and its citizens to work together to achieve spatial and social integration. These strategic goals inform the priority objectives of the 9 policy levers. The levers seek to address in combination the structural drivers that maintain the status quo. Policy Lever 1, Integrated Urban Planning and Management. Policy Lever 2, Integrated Transport and Mobility. Policy Lever 3, Integrated Sustainable Human Settlements. Policy Lever 4, Integrated Urban Infrastructure. Policy Lever 5, Efficient Land Governance and Management. Policy Lever 6, Inclusive Economic Development. Policy Lever 7, Empowered Active Communities. Policy Lever 8, Effective Urban Governance. Policy Lever 9, Sustainable Finances. Our priority is to ensure that we strengthen the linkages between rural and urban areas, create spaces where people are and feel safe, as well as ensuring that our urban areas are equipped to reduce the risks and impact of natural and man-made disasters. These 3 cross-cutting priorities, namely rural-urban linkages, urban safety and urban resilience, are at the core of the various policy levers. Everyone has a role to play in achieving this. A dedicated and developmental local government plays an essential role. The rest of the government system has to lend and coordinate its support and commitment to this effort as well. An active citizenry will also be essential where there is full public participation in visioning, planning, innovating, investing, and also holding the systems accountable for the development that we want. Private sector, our knowledge industry, our development partners, the list goes on. We have no choice but to create cities and towns that drive structural efficiency, decrease inequality, and whose function is to accommodate for the requirements of a non-racial and inclusive South Africa. To achieve this, we have to effect fundamental change by transforming municipalities from inefficient and inflexible places to ones that provide a better quality of life for all, are proactively inclusive of poorer members of our communities, and are economically viable. We encourage all stakeholders, private and public, to embrace the principles of the IUDF so we all, as one nation, can benefit from the opportunities that our urban spaces have to offer. Together, let us move local government forward.